say I won't say that. Hi there, Mr. McLeod. I'm Steven.
And I'm Shay.
And this is what we did.
Made a lightsaber. Click.
Click, click.
Okay, our approved project was the blade was supposed to be 3 feet long with a diameter of 1.25 inches. The hilt was supposed to be 1 foot long with a diameter of 1.5 inches. And the materials we used were rubber.
Plan to use.
Were rubber gloves, safety goggles, a hacksaw, a soldering gun, paint, and a battery holder. And our approved timeline kind of changed a lot, but we researched for like the first week, started constructing it on the other weeks, and finished it. Okay.
And tested.
Click.
And the project we ended up doing was close to the same, where Shay's was a bit midgeted, his lightsaber, but the length was a little bit shorter because the length of the block blade was the same as what we thought it would be for mine, except the part of it goes inside the handle, so that would take off a little bit of the size. And the diameter was exactly what we thought it would be for both of us. And my handle was about 1 foot long, 11 inches, a bit more. And the diameter for that was the same. Shay's was a bit shorter, which was 8 inches long. I think it was because his blade was smaller and he needed to make that work and not look odd. And the materials we used was about the same as expected, except for the hacksaw, because a coping saw works fine for cutting the PVC pipe. So what we used was duct tape, coping saw, PVC piping, hot glue, safety goggles, gloves, and spray paint. To paint and spray. And the timeline, hold on before you switch. Hold on before you, whatever. Okay, but the timeline stayed relatively the same, except for, if you could actually go back a slide. Thanks. Except for a couple things happened with it, where when the first week we still did research, but for week 2, it took a bit longer for some of the stuff to come in than we expected, so that was a bit delayed, and a lot of the wiring and stuff took a bit longer than we expected, but besides that, everything was on schedule, so that was good. Okay, 2 ahead.
Okay, how our project changed from beginning to end was our project changed a little bit because we thought it would be easy to do all the wiring and making the handle and stuff like that. And it changed because our handle, we drew out handle designs at the beginning, like for this part, and then they changed a lot because the PVC pipe was kind of hard to get.
Yeah, so we had to take what we got.
Yeah, and we kind of had a tight budget. Okay.
Challenge was a couple of them. The main challenge that we had was shipping, because when you buy the stuff, you have to wait for it to come in, and a lot of times shipping and mail is very fluid, and it's not really a set time, so it was delayed sometimes when we needed stuff at a certain date, but it didn't come till maybe a week later, which happened to Shay and me a couple times. It was not good. And the wiring was also a big pain because the soldering gun that I had didn't work at my house. It melted itself or something, I don't know. But it didn't work anymore, so we had to improvise a little bit. So that made it really hard, especially when you have a whole bunch of wires that connect with a switch and everything. It was very hard and annoying. And the last challenge was making the buttons. Originally, I did have a switch, but the wiring that was with it was very poor, so it was not very reliable. So in the end, I had to make my own switch to turn it on using just stuff I had. So that was a pain because it relied on the two wires kind of touching underneath something, which means that you have to be really careful that they don't get displaced. Shay's, I think, was a bit easier, and he'll tell you why.
It was a bit easier because when I bought like the blade, it kind of came with like the button set up and all that stuff. But I still had to wire the blade, like the LEDs, and it was just a little bit easier because I just had to drill a hole and the button was just right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
The successes.
Yes. We had a lot of success with making the handles because it was pretty easy to cut the PVC pipe with the coping saws, and it was the PVC pipes, like if you bought like a size smaller, it'd connect really nicely. Also, we had a lot of success with getting things done according to the timeline according to the time we had, because we made sure to always be on task, always doing something productive, and we came out with a really nice end project.
All right, Harrison, if you'd be so kind. All right, bud. I think that we would still do this project because it was a lot of fun and it's a lightsaber. I mean, would you not want a lightsaber? So it was fun to do. It was a pain trying to make sometimes, but I thought it was very rewarding. What about you, Shay?
I really enjoyed this project. It was very interesting, and I learned lots of skills
Like wiring.
that we'll talk about in our next slide.
Not a particularly fun skill.
Yeah.
Click.
Okay, what we would have done differently. I think the thing we would have liked to have done differently was get a soldering gun that works. Spend more time on
researching how to
make the button.
Or just buy a button
Yeah.
pre-made. Let's follow Shay's idea.
It was very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And finding better ways to construct the handle. I'm only saying this because like sometimes it was hard to get everything to stay in place, and it might have been easier if we constructed the handles differently.
Yeah, because these are just tubes open at the top and bottom, so you have to find a way to secure the batteries and everything,
Yeah.
which sometimes get annoying when they just randomly fall out.
Okay, next.
Click. We did research a whole lot on the actual lightsaber and some of the wiring. Not as much with the button because we felt like that'd just be an easy thing to do, which of course it wasn't because we thought it was going to. You know how that works. And it was, the research was alright. It was kind of funny sometimes when you get to these websites made by people who are very large fans of Star Wars and lightsabers. Quite interesting, they tell you a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Alright, click.
Okay, documentation. Our documentation was good.
Well, Shay's was very good. Mine was
Yeah.
subpar.
It wasn't excellent or perfect because we put a lot of time into just working and getting things done, and sometimes we forgot to do it, and yeah, so we had to catch up on that. But towards the end, we started getting back into the documentation, and everything was good.
Well, let's click. What we enjoyed, it was, as we've kind of been saying throughout the whole thing, we enjoyed kind of the satisfaction at the end when we actually had the actual lightsaber, because it's cool. And sometimes when you're walking down the hallway carrying your project, little kids come up to you and say, "Oh my gosh, is that a lightsaber?" And I say, "Oh, why, yes it is." And then there's the annoying kids who grab it and say, "Whoa, a lightsaber," and I have to tell them to back off. But it was pretty cool. I felt like a superstar, like a Jedi. That's what I felt like, a Jedi.
Okay.
Jay, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. Also, the satisfaction of the end product. very fun to play with.
Very much.
Okay.
End of slideshow.
That's it.
Click to exit. Alright, thank you for watching.
And hope you enjoyed.
You can hit the off button now.